Good morning. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad that you are too. I'm Sarah, and the last couple of days I've been talking about living in a new way. And for me personally, I call it living liberated. That journey started for me a few years back, and I didn't even know I needed liberating, right? I've talked a lot about that for those of you that are following me. It was this knowing that there was something better out there for me, and yet I could not figure it out, right? I was doing all of this work to try to figure it out, reading, watching YouTube videos, all the personal growth, self-help, self-development, all of that type of work. And I was a therapist, which is like, I love being able to tell that story now because it is so liberating, right? As the professional, I was not able to figure it out. And the main reason that I would say that I struggled so much to, quote, figure it out is because in most cases, I was trying to figure it out by myself, right? So when I finally got to the point where I was like, wow, I legitimately cannot figure this out. I was in conversation, there were several conversations that led up to this, but one in particular I'm thinking of right now, where I just had this distinct awareness in conversation with a colleague and friend, like, oh wow, you've gone and done some major work, inner work, right? Really dealing with yourself with the help of someone else. And I'm now seeing massive changes in you, right? And this was someone I had known for a hot minute and who was also a helper, professional helper, right? And had been like in the struggle, we'll say, with me. And then he actually went and got help from someone else. And then I saw massive changes. And that was really the turning point for me to be like, okay, the books have been good, the YouTube videos are good, you know, joining this program or that program, whether it's for my work, professional leadership type stuff, or it's in my personal life, doing a yoga training or this or that or the other thing, it's all good. But until you really commit to doing that inner work within yourself, it's still not getting to the root of what's going on, right? The thing that I would refer to as figuring it out, that's what I think of as the root of the problem, right? And I'll just call it that for simplicity's sake, really getting to the problem itself, right? The core. So I just wanted to share that to inspire you for where you're at in your journey. There is hope. You absolutely can get wherever it is you want to go. And the turning point, I promise you, will be when you commit to doing your own internal work. So the last couple of days I've been talking about committing to doing life in a new way, which is what I did. And being willing to take a look at the thoughts that are going on in your mind and the way that you're thinking, which is what I talked about yesterday. So if you didn't watch the last two videos, the last 2 days of my lives, I would definitely encourage you to go back and watch them because they are packed with really good information. And if for some reason you can't find them in the Facebook algorithm of how things move around on your page and stuff I don't totally understand yet, feel free to just send me a note, drop a comment here, and ask me to tag you on them. Sometimes that's just the easiest way to do it. So thinking about and talking about how we actually do have control over our thoughts is an extremely liberating thought, awareness, to be able to recognize, wow, I do have way more control and way more power than I ever imagined I did. So today I just want to share briefly why it's so hard, right? And so I give you that background about who I have been in the last 20 years, right? And I could share even the 20 years before that, which would give more credibility to my story. But I'll save that for another time, is because that's who I was, right? And it was so hard, or at least that's the way I understood it at the time, right? Because I was legitimately missing information, awareness that I needed in order for it to not be so hard anymore, right? So that information was actually not that much. It was just a specific like it was very specific information. It wasn't the information that I was coming across. And it also wasn't a one-on-one, like someone else really pouring in, looking into me, that also made the biggest difference. So if you're in that struggle, again, to be encouraged and to notice, are you allowing yourself to be in that kind of a relationship with another human where you're surrendering yourself to the process, where you're allowing someone else to come in and take a look at what's going on with you? Okay, so getting back to why it's so hard, right? So for me, it was so hard. And for the clients that I work with today, so hard. And in my therapy practice, so hard. So much struggle, right? Which is one of the reasons it is so hard. So I want to give you the first reason that I think is just the biggest reason, and it is our social conditioning. It's the repeated embracing of a certain way of doing things, right? So let's just say, you think of something that you were told when you were a child, right? And or something that you heard or learned or started to like believe about yourself when you were very young. Normally, this could really be anything, but some of the ones I have heard and over the years have been significant. Things like, you're really hard to live with, right? Or you're really selfish. Or you're not good at fill in the blank. Or, you have a problem with your eating habits. Or you have a problem with fill in the blank, right? So it could be anything, really, but I just want to give you a couple of phrases, statements that it could be, and or fill in the blanks. But it's so hard because it's the way it's always been. It's the way you've always known it to be, right? And normally that starts early childhood. And then it just gets repeated over and over and over and over and over, right? And because it started in early childhood, you don't really know differently. You might sense differently, but you don't actually know differently. And so you believe it, even if you don't want to believe it, right? And even if you rebel against it, you still don't know otherwise, and so you're still affected by it. And then as you get older, your brain just looks for ways to reinforce that initial thought, that initial belief. So let's just take a really simple, easy one, right? You're not good at singing. I wasn't really good at singing as a child. And so let's just use that as an example, or so I was led to believe by various sources, right? And so as I take on that belief, I then look for reasons why that's true as I go throughout my life. And instead of getting singing lessons, right, or participating in choir or auditioning for a musical type of a thing, I don't do it, right, because I have this notion that I'm not going to be a good singer, or that I'm not a good singer, or that it's not something I should pursue as a profession, right? And so we carry that into our adult lives. And then what do? We actually take that, and again, this is just one very small example. We take that sentiment and we then give it to other people, right? So instead of encouraging other people in our worlds, like, if you love to sing, you should like follow up on that. Totally, like get singing lessons, join the choir, like work at it. No, instead, typically, not always, but typically, we also give that same caution, right? Because we don't want them to get their feelings hurt, to go out, to embarrass themselves, whatever, because we also agree that they're not good at X, right? So even if you're engaging with someone close to you, whether it's a spouse or it's your child or it's a friend, a close friend, and let's just use the singing one, but it could really be anything, right? they're not good at, you don't think they're good at speaking in public, they're not good at some sort of profession, whatever it is, a skill, right? And so instead of saying like, pursue that, get better at it, because you've been told you're not good at X, and now you're experiencing them and they're inexperienced, they're underdeveloped. And so you say, well, you're not really very good at that. Like maybe you shouldn't pursue that. We kind of hear the joke like, don't quit your day job, right? When people have like a passion or something they love doing, comedy comes to mind. When people like really like comedy, but they're like not that good at it yet. And then people say to them, don't quit your day job, right? That is social conditioning in play. So that is how we get to be, later in life, whether you're 20 or you're 40 or you're 60, the reason why it's so hard to change the way we've always done things or to get control over our thoughts is because we've been doing that same way, that same thought pattern, that same way of living for so long. Again, whether you're 20 or 40 or 60, it doesn't matter. I've had the privilege of working with teenagers, college students, as well as people who are 50, 60, retiring. And it doesn't matter. Once you've had like a good amount of time with that type of engagement, that type of thinking, it becomes a part of who you are, right? Now, it's not who you are, but it does become a part of who you are right now, right here. It becomes like a living thing inside of you. It gets interwoven, right, into the way that your mind operates. And so like you might hear yourself saying to your child, oh, you're not really that good at singing, so like you shouldn't pursue that as a profession. You might hear yourself saying that to them and be like, oh my gosh, why am I doing that? That sounds awful, right? That might be you. And I just want to like hold you, right? And tell you the reason why you're doing it is because it's what you were conditioned to do. So it's not actually who you are, because who you are is meant to inspire and encourage and bring life through your words. It's not meant to bring what I'll just say is like a death, right? This discouragement, this disempowering. You're not meant to do that. That's not who you are at your core. So it's in you and it's living in you, but it isn't who you are naturally, right? It's not who God made you to be, right? It's not who you were created to be. So the process of going through removing that way, right? It's detailed. It's a process. It's something that takes a little bit of time, right? It doesn't actually take as long as you might think, right? When you think about like, whoa, I've been living this way for 40 years. And so just to give you some, context, the people that I work with and the work that I've done for myself, massive change happens like almost immediately, which is so exciting because it gives you hope and it's like, okay, yeah, I can totally see how this could change, right? So typically I tell my clients it takes about 2 months for you to really start to see like these massive shifts in how you're showing up. And when you think about 2 months compared to, let's just say you're 40 and you've been living this way for 40 years, that's pretty fucking awesome. Let's just be honest, right? So the way that I also talk about it with people when they're like, oh, it's so hard, or it just like seems like it's going to be like take forever to change the way that I've been doing things, I just tell them like, listen, you could keep working really hard at the life that you're living right now, right? That you're kind of like bored in, or you're not as excited about, or you're beating yourself up because you don't have the love that you want, or you're not making the money that you want, or you're not living where you want to be living, or you're not traveling, like whatever the thing is, right? Or you're not the parent you really want to be, whatever the thing is, You can keep working really hard at doing that, right? And feeling like a failure at it. Or you could actually just learn a new way and then work really hard at that. Because that sounds like way better to me, right? Which is what I'm doing in my life. So it's available for you, is how I'll just leave on that note. It's available for you. Doing that inner work, rewiring, however, there's so many like ways to describe it. Rewiring, relearning, it's basically like going in and removing this old conditioning and putting in some new conditioning, right? And removing what I'll call is like fear that's living in you, this death, this disempowering energy, and bringing in life, breathing in life to your being, that you are then able to breathe life into others from a place of deep sincerity, not of like, just be positive, because that does not work, right? I'm saying it definitely doesn't work. That just like, oh, just be happy, just be positive. No, that doesn't actually work. You actually do have to do the work, do the effort of removing and replacing. So I will leave you with that. It's not hard, right? It's actually just new or different. Think about it like it's just a new thing to learn, or it's a new way to be, or it's just different. It's a shift. Okay, so for those of you that know you need to do this work and you're like, yeah, that's me. I've been working so hard. I've been reading all the books, watching all the videos, taking all the courses, and it's just not where I need to be. It's just not where I want to be. I would love to work with you. I can help you. So reach out to me, book a time for us to chat, get to know each other better, totally free of charge, no pressure. Just an opportunity to hear more about your story, what you're wanting in your life, and then see whether or not we would be a good fit to work together. And just to give you a little bit of like context for the work, right, as I refer to it, it's getting in and looking at your social conditioning, essentially. Getting in there, really looking at, okay, what is going on? What are you thinking? What are those thought processes, those beliefs that you've integrated over the years into the way that you are, the way that you show up for yourself in your life, and that are causing you harm, and then we remove them. And then we bring in the conditioning that actually is going to help you create exactly what you want. So that's like a summary. That's what I refer to as doing the inner work. Because literally everything that you create in your life is happening right here. It's all being created right here in just a very simple way to explain it. Okay, so for those of you that are interested, I will drop a link here. You can also check out my website, sarahlesliecoaching.com, and you can book a call through there as well. All right, you guys, as always, thanks for joining me. And from now until I see you next, go do that thing you really want to be doing. And I'll talk to you soon.